Welcome. Welcome to another of our Wednesday yachting luncheons. It's beautiful out these windows. Wonderful to have everybody here. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce our Commodore, the sailor, the parent of world champions, Paul Heineken. Paul.
Well, it is a real pleasure to be here today and welcome everybody. So on behalf of the flags, the board, the members of the St. Francis Yacht Club, welcome. And that includes our members, the Cruising Club of America members who are here. Hey, raise your hands so we can see who you are. Some people cruise around in lasers, and we're going to be really fortunate to have, I don't want to steal Ron's thunder, but I'm just delighted to be here. When Paige gets to speak, I put on my Laser Master Worlds t-shirt from way back when, and yes, some of us try to sail those boats, but others know how to sail them. So, thanks.
Good one, Commodore. Yes, it's with great pleasure that we have this joint meeting with the CCA. So when our Commodore was talking about sailing lasers, we want to point out that we did feature him literally on the cover of the magazine. This is the first ever Commodore shown in his Commodore year hiking out on a laser on the cover of our magazine. Good on you, mate. So on behalf of the St. Francis Yacht Club and our friends at the CCA, we're happy to have you guys come for our annual joint meeting. Mary Crowley was the dreamer upper of this idea, and this year the principal organizer was Staff Keegan. So I want to say thanks to all the CCA, our good CCA friends. A little bit about future speakers. Of course, we'll be hearing from a two-time Olympian today. And guess what? In June, that is to say on the 12th, come by, we'll hear Luke Muller. He'll be here to talk about his Olympic activities. Then let's see, in May, you've been wondering about the Herreshoff Museum. Well, Bill Lynn, Executive or Managing Director of the Herreshoff Museum, will be here to talk all about that and the Classic Yacht Owners Association. Channing Robertson will be here to talk about biomimetic design, that is to say, what nature can teach us about speed. He's a Stanford engineering professor. Then we're going to have Patrick Hunt talk all about the nautical surprises of Hannibal in April. In March the 20th, nobody's ever heard of Dewey Hines, have they? He'll be here to talk all about St. Francis Yacht Club in the 50s. I was here, and we'll have Dewey was here too. He joined in 54. Roy Leggett will be here in April to talk all about, he's an amateur archaeologist and member of our club. He'll be here to talk about whales in Bakersfield. There once were. Ron Young of a different spelling will be here. He's a distinguished professor emeritus at UC Berkeley. He'll talk all about these 700-foot tall floating wind turbines that are being deployed already in the North Sea and soon in Northern California. Very, very amazing devices that generate wind power. Caleb Payne will be here on March the 6th to talk about his effort to go back. You may recall Caleb was the only American sailor to win a medal the last time. We're proud he was one of our 5 St. Francis members at Rio. He'll be back to talk about going for, with the bronze on the mantle, going for the gold. Bill Wells will be here February 27th to talk all about the California Delta and the history of it. A little bit about our speaker today. The first person to say the words Paige Railey to me was Russ Silvestri. In the early 2000s, he introduced both her big brother, Zach, and Paige to our yacht club and mentioned to me, I was on the membership committee at the time, and said, these are incredibly thoughtful, good, purposeful people. They're going to do incredibly good in sailing, but more than that, they're great people. We want them in our club. So good on you, Russ. Good going, mate. As usual, a good eye for the future of our club. Paige's first recollection of being on a boat was being on an opti with her 3-year older brother, Zach, when she was age 6, and he was taking her out to the race course. Not a bad memory for a 6-year-old to have. By age 8, she had her own opti, and she and her twin sister Brooke were being cast off the buoy. And she said, in what would be really prophetic words, "Here we go," as she left the dock and left the buoy, and she remembers thinking, "I'm totally on my own now. I'm no longer tied to this buoy." It took her 8 years to win the Youth Worlds at age 16 in the laser radial in Madeira, Portugal. So you would say to yourself, what does it take to win the Youth Worlds? Yeah, it takes all kinds of concentration. It takes incredible patience because you're going to have loads and loads of failure. But it also takes some kind of internal drive that you'll recognize when you see our speaker today, because she exhibited all through her sailing career. By age 24, she was on her first Olympic bid, 2012. She, on the way to going to that and then her second Olympic trip in 2016 at Rio, she's been in 9 world championships, medaled in 9 world championships, won 4 worlds as a gold medalist on her own, and developed an incredible kind of perseverance, which was put to the test a couple of years ago when on a bicycle ride, a 2.5-hour bike ride with about 40 guys and another woman going about 21 miles an hour in a road bike, the guy right in front of her reached down for his water bottle and hit one of those little reflector speed bumps and went down. And as she went head over heels in front of herself, face first onto the pavement, she thought, relax, just relax, just relax. It took 6 months of rehab, 4 months during which she was still suffering a concussion, nerve damage, a fractured spine, and all kinds of people telling her she'll never do it again. But that's not our speaker today. She is best epitomized by, in fact, the words of one of our own staff Commodores and the guy who had this podium for a few years, who had a knee operation a little while ago. His left knee was replaced, and every time Kimball Livingston's knee really, really, really hurts, he says to himself, "Paige Railey is watching me right now." With that, our speaker, Paige Railey, the most decorated opti sailor in history, the most decorated laser radial sailor in all of history.
Good afternoon. I'm so excited to be here, and thank you for having me. The first thing I want to say is thank you, Russ, for having my brother and I come join this wonderful club. It is such an honor when I go around the world competing to say that I sail for St. Francis. So to begin, we are going to start with a video. When I was a kid, it started off as I wanted to establish my own name. So once that happened, I said, okay, now I want to become better than the boys. Then after that, I said, well, I want to go to the Youth Worlds. Got a medal there. After the Youth Worlds, I said, I want to become one of the best sailors in the world. Once I had started achieving all of these different things, World Championship medals, World Cup medals, I said, what's the next step? I go, well, I can't stand the idea of people having a medal that I don't have, which is the Olympic medal. So I told myself, looks like I'm going to do an Olympic campaign. And at that time, the laser radial came in. I was 16 or 17 years old, and I said, okay, guess I'm becoming an Olympic athlete. Let's go.
Day 4.
Yes.
When I was a kid, it started off as I wanted to establish my own name. So once that happened, I said, okay, now I want to become better than the boys. Then after that, I said, well, I want to go to the Youth Worlds. Got a medal there. After the Youth Worlds, I said, I want to become one of the best sailors in the world. Once I had started achieving all of these different things, World Championship medals, World Cup medals, I said, what's the next step? I go, well, I can't stand the idea of people having a medal that I don't have, which is the Olympic medal. So I told myself, looks like I'm going to do an Olympic campaign. And at that time, the laser radial came in. I was 16 or 17 years old, and I said, okay, guess I'm becoming an Olympic athlete. Let's go.
Day 4 of the Rio Olympic test event, and Paige Railey has been piecing together a stressful but successful regatta scoreline.
2012 games, I'll be honest, it was tough. I was out on my bicycle
Unfortunately, I had an accident with somebody else. I flew off my bike and landed on my face. Without much protection of my helmet, led to concussion, lacerations on my face, all over my body. I had really bad road rash. I had loose teeth, fractures in my spine, dislocated knuckle, tendons exposed. The first person I called was my coach, Mark. And I said, "Oh no, Mark, I'm so sorry. I think I've messed up worlds." I was so scared that I didn't know if I would get my memory back, or would my spine heal properly. I believe everyone has setbacks in life. I did weeks and weeks of physical therapy. I wasn't able to even, pick up things. I needed people to help me for everything. One of the biggest things I've learned is to not let my pride and my ego get in the way, because I know where I can be. I know where I've been. I know where I was just last year with my results. I'm getting very motivated and full of fire to get back to where I was. I went to London, didn't get a medal, but this time it is not happening. I'm trying my hardest to keep leading a path for other female athletes and show them, the road's gonna be tough, you will have setbacks, but you gotta show them who you are and what you can do.
Yep. Okay, so who is Paige Railey? Who am I? Well, my accomplishments have been the 2012, 2016 Olympics, and my thing that I'm actually most proud of are my 9 World Championship medals. Now, a little secret between us, what I'd like to do in the future is win another World Championship so I can sail across the line with 5 fingers up and then bring up another to show 10. And that's the goal for this year, so I really would love to achieve that. Also, another thing that's very proud for the club is I'm actually shortlisted right now for the 2018 U.S. Sailing's Female Rolex Sailor of the Year. So if I could maybe win that, then that would be my second title taking that. And then also I won it in 2006 for the World Sailor, actually. And with that, I'm actually the youngest female athlete to ever win it at that age. I believe I was 19. So, who would have known that this little girl would have been the future of Olympic sailing? I started at the age of 8 with an older brother, and my mom and dad actually just needed a daycare program. So the dentist said, "Hey, Ann, Dan, why don't you guys take the kids down to the Learn to Sail program, and they can be taken off your hands for a little bit while you guys go to work." Well, little did they know that at 31 years old, I would still be competing in racing. Oh, and let me tell you, when I first started sailing, I was horrific. I actually failed my Learn to Sail program, and the coaches said I needed to actually learn how to sail rather than just cruise around and have a good time and throw jellyfish at my friends. So, if you all don't know the man sitting up there, that is my older brother, Zach Railey. Now, he was a fabulous sailor. He only won a silver medal at the Olympics in 2008, so the shadow of my brother was quite large when I was younger. I'm actually a twin, so people would call me the twin, Frick or Frack, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, or Zach's little sister. Now, I'm not the type of person that goes around and complains and whines or gets upset about a situation. Instead, I like to prove people wrong or prove myself via my actions. So I said to myself as a 8, 9, 10-year-old that I was going to get my own name, that I was going to establish myself outside of my brother's shadow. And I'll never forget the day that they actually published in the newspaper, Paige's older brother, Zach. We had a party at my house with cake. Throughout my youth career, I would compete well, but then by the time when I got to the end of the event, I couldn't handle the pressure. So I actually would always cave. I would get disqualified from races, or I would get dead last. And instead of letting it constantly get me down, I used it as a motivation, as a tool of something that I had to overcome if I wanted to become a top athlete. After being able to overcome pressure, I said, heck, I want to be better than the boys. Because I'll never forget competing and someone saying to me, you won't be good enough because you're a girl. And when you start in your youth sailing, you actually, boys and girls compete against each other. And I actually am still friends with some of the guys who go to the Olympics that I sailed against when I was younger. So the next stepping stone was to prove to people that I could be just as good as an athlete as a male athlete. My first world title was when I was 16 years old in Madeira, Portugal. And the reason why I believe I won that world championships was when I was 15 years old, I went to the Youth Worlds, was winning the event all the way until the end, and then I choked. So I said to myself, never again am I going to choke in an event. I'm going to go home for this next year when I was in high school, and I was going to train as hard as I could so I could win that next Youth Worlds. My high school career consisted of waking up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, going to the gym, going to school at 7 a.m., coming home, going sailing, and then doing schoolwork till about 11 o'clock at night. After the first semester, I would be exhausted, and it was through emotional support of my family that I could get through my whole school year. After I won my first Youth Worlds, I then went over and competed against the guys over in Europe, and I was beating them. Some of the guys that are going to the games now, I was beating them as a kid. So I said, well, what's the next step? I go, everyone's talking about this Olympic Games thing. So I looked into it and I go, well, I can't stand the idea of people having a medal that I don't have. So I said, okay, guess I'm going to the Olympic Games, or trying to go. I'm one of those athletes that, I'm going to be honest, I never had an Olympics aha moment. It was never my driving force when I was a kid. I like to view my career as stepping stones. First, it started off as establishing my own name. Then it turned into beating the guys. Next was becoming the best in the world. Then after that, it's been going to the Olympic Games. Going into my first Olympic trials, I was actually tied going into the last 2 or 3 races with Anna Tunnicliffe. And my life jacket got stuck in my boom and I fell out of my boat. And Olympic trials over. So I was pretty devastated, I'm not going to lie. But I made a promise to my parents that if I were to sail, that I would also get a degree. So back I went to school. And I only had 2.5 years to complete my college degree while I was still sailing before the Olympic trials came in. So the reason why I put a photo of me standing in an American flag is because I was a full-time athlete and a full-time college student. I did spring, summer, fall, and I would go to school from 8 a.m. till 9 p.m. at night, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then I would sail the other days. During this time, I'm going to be honest, I lived off of Red Bull, Monster, and Diet Coke. My hair started falling out. I was sleep deprived. And I'll never forget in Holland when I was competing, I was walking around with a computer at 11 o'clock at night up in the air looking for service so I could do my exam. I think you can describe me as full throttle on a lot of stuff. So I got a BS in business management in 2010 in that year, December of that year. After I completed my schooling, I went back to the Olympic Games and I said, I can't handle that I didn't go to the games. My brother went and got a silver medal and we were a great support system. So we said, hey, let's do this together and let's try to go to the games together. We went to the 2012 Olympics, and yes, I am part of the team that kind of made history of not bringing home one medal. It was a huge learning experience for me because it taught me to stand by what I actually thought. I was a member of that team, and I still view that team as successful. And what it taught me was in my beliefs, and I know our training ethic, and really standing up for what I thought of how that team was
dealt with, how we performed. And it helped me get a stronger opinion and sense of word on my own. So 2012, we didn't bring home a medal. I'm not going to lie, I went home, and for about a month or so, I was pretty devastated about that. But I look back at that quad and I see the multiple world championship medals we brought back, World Cup wins, European wins. And I still say, hey, that was a great quad. Unfortunately, the games just didn't go the way we wanted. So after 2012, I went into the working world, which is a whole other beast, as we all know. The picture here is me selling 5-gallon buckets. Yes, I went from Olympian to the bucket girl. Great learning experience. Taught me how to go out into the workforce, to talk with people. It gave me great social skills. The work ethics that I've learned in the Olympic world, I was able to translate over into the working world. I also got my 220s license, which means I'm an insurance agent. So I was out in the sales doing a lot of marketing with insurance and also selling these 5-gallon buckets. It made me appreciate sailing a lot. When I was working, I said to myself, well, I guess I'm just going to try another hobby out for a little bit. Looked on YouTube, heard this really great song, and I saw an Ironman video. Said to myself, well, heck, that looks kind of fun. I guess I'll do an Ironman. An Ironman, if you don't know, is a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and then you have to finish it off with a marathon. So when I was working full-time, I also started training full-time for an Ironman, and I did that in about 4 months. The training for an Ironman is excruciating. Some of my Saturdays consisted of me waking up at 4 in the morning, going on a 7-hour bike ride, coming home, getting off the bike, and going for an hour and a half or an hour run. The hours to train for an Ironman take complete mental grit. When you're doing an Ironman, that requires you to be on the bike a lot. And with that comes a bike accident. As Ron said, I was out on a training group ride, just hanging out with some friends talking. A gentleman fell in front of me, and I just said to myself, oh no, there goes the World Championships. I was about 2 weeks out from the Worlds, and it was actually the qualifier for the country to go to the Olympics. When I was flying through the air, I told myself to relax so I could not have as much damage when I hit the ground. Everyone says wear a helmet. Well, I had a helmet on, but unfortunately the helmet was up here and the impact was here. So I'll never forget laying on the ground thinking, oh no, is my spine damaged? How's my head going to be? You know, what can happen? There was a doctor on scene, and he actually put my face back together because I was bleeding out on the ground. And I remember sitting on the stretcher thinking, oh my gosh, my mother is going to be so mad at me right now. So I had to go to about 6 months of rehab. They wanted me to continue rehab, and I said, I've had enough of this. They thought I'd be out for about 6 months, but I was determined to be normal again, is what I said. I went from being this able-bodied athlete, doing an Ironman, competing in sailing, to now living on my mom and dad's couch, not being able to pick up a plate or even take off my shirt or anything. So I had to be helped completely by other people. What's interesting with an accident or any health issues, you see who your real friends are too, who sticks around, who comes and sees you, who supports you. So that was a very big eye-opening moment for me. Well, since I wanted to be normal again, I told myself, Mom, I'm going down to Brazil. This was only 6 weeks after my accident. I'll never forget how angry she was at me, but she knew I was determined and I was going to go back. With that evolved the Pink Helmet Girl. That's what I was nicknamed when I came back sailing. I had a concussion that lasted for about 4 months. I had some pretty bad effects, and I'll never forget the neurologist said to me, just go home and don't think. Sit in a black room where there's nothing that's going to be getting your senses going, and just sit there and not think. When I went back sailing, we were nervous for me to take another knock on my head too soon, so I had to wear a pink helmet. I'll never forget sailing at one of the World Cup events. and a young youth sailor from another country went up to her coach and said, "Oh my gosh, I'm sailing so bad, even that pink helmet girl is beating me." So it was a very humbling experience, because most of my career I always kind of kept myself covered a bit. I never really showed vulnerability. After this accident and having to go with a face mask because I had so much scarring on my face and having to wear a pink helmet, I was humbled, and people got to see me in a vulnerable state. And what I learned, vulnerability is not weakness. And I learned how to use my vulnerability as a strength to get myself back at a competing level against the world. After my bike accident, I went straight into the Olympic trials the next year, and I ended up going to the 2016 Rio Games. The World Championships that year, I got a silver medal, and I went into Rio as one of the favorites for the gold medal. Unfortunately, about 2 days before the games, I was in bed with chills, not able to breathe, and I was sick. We didn't understand what was wrong. I had picked up some kind of cold because we're living in a village that has a mass amount of people and a whole bunch of different germs, we can say. And I had picked something up. So I knew that I was going into my Olympic Games sick. I tried as hard as I could because from my accident I had learned how to fight. Unfortunately, the games did not go the way that I wanted, and I finished 10th. A lot of people said to me, "Hey, it's great, you got to go to the games and to represent the country." But that's not what I want. I'm not there to just compete. I'm there to win a medal. So I left the Rio Games extremely disappointed and thinking I can't end my Radial career on this. In 2017, Malcolm Paige, a person that I greatly admire, a well-decorated sailing athlete, came on to U.S. Sailing as our director of the U.S. Sailing Team program. And I thought, he is a person to be admired, 100%. So Malcolm gave me a call and he said, "Hey Paige, let's get back sailing." And I was 100% ready to go. Unfortunately, one day I woke up and I couldn't get out of bed. I remember calling Malcolm saying, "Something is wrong. I'm not feeling well. I don't know what's going on." Well, 2017 turned into a year that changed my life forever. The photo pictured here in this PowerPoint presentation is a photo of me with my twin sister at the hospital. This year I endured a lot of testing, honestly, months of where I couldn't get off the couch. I was extremely sick, waiting for results of thinking, wow, could this be the end? I couldn't compete. I couldn't do anything. I worked to try to keep my mind busy, but I literally thought that when I had my bike accident, I was ground zero. But no, getting ill and not being able to do anything for yourself was ground zero. I had such tough moments that all I could think about was getting through the current moment that I was in. Before, during my bike accident, I always used sailing as my way to come back. I need to come back for sailing. I need to come back so I can get back in the boat. In 2017, I had to let go of everything. I had to just fight to be who I was, just to get myself back to where I was. And the thing that I respect so much about Malcolm is that he didn't give up on me. I couldn't compete at all. I couldn't get any results. And Malcolm, Meredith, all of the U.S. sailing team stood by me and waited for me to get my health back so then I could come compete. 2017 taught me how to truly fight. I thought when you're out on a race course, if a shift goes wrong, that you have to try to come back. No. Those kind of stresses in my life seemed like nothing compared to other situations that I was dealt. I'll never forget, my mom said to me one day, she came up, when my mom's being very serious, she takes 2 fingers and she tapped them on my leg. And she said, "Paige Railey, it's time to get everything put back together. You can do this."
And if it wasn't for my mom, then I wouldn't have been able to get myself fully prepared to mentally take on what I was going to do in 2018. I love this quote. It says, "Each new chapter of our lives requires an old part of us to fall and a new part of us to rise." In 2017, for the first time in my life, broke me. And I had to rebuild myself after that. So 2018, I went into this new quad, a new year of sailing with a completely new mindset and process. I was 131 pounds, sailing in 25 knots at my first event. And this photo here means so much to me because I'll never forget how much I suffered that day in January at the World Cup Miami. I was underweight, I was still trying to battle being sick, and I was completely out of shape. I talked a lot with my coach, Steve Mitchell, and he stood by me through this whole process as well. And what we decided was, no matter what situation, whatever place, whatever physical or mental mindset that I was in at that moment, I was going to keep fighting and keep pushing. I learned how to truly put one foot in front of the other. We went into the year thinking, okay, let's try to get into medal races. Let's try for top 15s. Well, after about 2 or 3 months going out sailing, and as I say, being punched in my face every single moment I was out on the water, we started seeing things start to change around. And I'm going to be honest, it's not like I was some great specimen of an athlete last year. I just knew how to grit through extreme amounts of pain. At the first event in Yare, I went and got a bronze medal. And one of the most memorable moments of that event was I rounded one of the women marked second to last. And by the end of that race, I think I passed maybe 10, 15 boats. But instead of focusing on the negative, which I think most people we are programmed to do, I focused on the positive. I think when you're at your lowest, instead of focusing so hard on what's going wrong around you or what's going wrong within your life, you have to look at any type of light that's shining at you. So to get myself out of the hole, all I did was keep telling myself, this is what's going right. Okay, maybe I have this negative situation here in my life, but that's just something that I can improve. And rather taking it as something that's defeating me, I use it as a motivator, as something that I can improve in my life. The next event we went to was the European Championships, and this one had wind. It was breezy. I remember being a little nervous, and my coach just saying to me, just go out and hike harder. I literally hiked so hard during that racing that I would get delirious. My heart rate was so high that by the time we would get to the downwinds, I would be swaying in my boat, not able to keep my head upright, and my coach would literally start seeing me zigzag back and forth on the downwinds because I couldn't even see straight. So our plan was, when I was so exhausted like that, I just had to point my boat at the mark and just go straight. And that led us to a silver medal. So we brought home a bronze and a silver in a situation that we didn't think that we could possibly do. Next, we went to the World Championships, and I will never forget sitting across a table from Malcolm in 2017. I think it was November. I said to him, I'm going to win the World Championships next year. I was probably 128 pounds, pale-faced, weak as ever. And he looked at me and he goes, how about we just try to get on a podium or something? But I remember saying, I'm going to do this. Went to the World Championships. After day one, I'm in the yellow jersey. I'm in first. I'm not going to lie, I was a little shocked myself. Throughout that whole event, I kept, going back and forth between first, second, and third. In the last day, I went into the event in first, thinking, wow, I actually have a chance to win this event. I unfortunately did not have the greatest day, and I ended up 5th overall, which was devastating. I felt like I had worked so hard and gritted through so much to then just get 5th. So instead of letting it get me down, I said, okay, these are the mistakes I made from that event. I need to go back to the drawing books and keep moving forward and keep progressing and getting better.
So we started this year off as the national champion, and then I just went and competed at the World Cup Miami, and I brought home a silver medal. So far, so far this year has been going really, really well, and we just hope that it keeps progressing as the year goes on. It's weird. Before, I always used to think about the future. Oh, I want to go to the games and medal. Oh, I want to go to this next event and win. And my whole thought process has changed. Currently, right now, what I'm doing is just enjoying this moment with everyone here in this room. I'm not thinking about how tomorrow I need to be working out or how in 2 or 3 weeks' time I'm going to be competing again. Living here currently in this moment has helped me so much in my sailing because it's made me enjoy my process of learning and improving every single moment. So, what keeps me going? I turned, we'll say, professional or an Olympic athlete when I was 16 years old, and I'm currently 31, which now in the Olympic scene, I guess is getting kind of old, 31, I can't believe it. But what keeps me going year after year is our game's evolving. Every single time that we go out to an event, girls and guys are inventing new techniques. And what I've decided is that if I want to stay up on the podium with everybody else, I have to put my ego aside and not talk about oh, I used to do this or I've done this in my day. I need to stay current, and I need to keep evolving with the youth as they come up. I learn new things all the time. And as I said before, I'm just enjoying this moment. Before, I was so focused on the results, and now when I finished the World Cup in silver, all I could think about was I couldn't look forward. I couldn't wait until the next event for me to get out and be competing against everybody else and just enjoying the racing. So, what's the day in the life of an athlete? When I'm not sailing, for example, in this fall, I did a lot of base training. That required me to wake up in the morning. I got myself up to doing 4-hour bike rides. I'd then come home, give myself a little bit of a rest, and then I'd go to the gym and do a power lift. So it was interesting. I was doing a contradiction. I was trying to gain weight, but then also do base training, which base training, you usually lose a lot of weight. So that required me to be on my nutrition. So I was working with a nutritionist, and then in addition, sports psychology. I believe sailing is as much mental as it is physical. So one thing that I believe that was lacking in my career was mental, the psych work. So I did a lot of visualization, talking through with our sports psychologists of different scenarios, how you handle things emotionally, how you're going to handle different situations. And I decided that I was going to improve my game on that. So my day is really booked with all sailing stuff. My next step is I'm going to get very deep into weather, and I want to learn about how wind flows over the land, how it will, have the effects on water. So in addition to the sports psych work, I'm going to get into the meteorology, and then in addition continue doing all of the weight training work. Now when I'm sailing, the days involve waking up, having a meeting with coach and the team, going sailing for 3 hours. I want to sail more, but coach, he keeps a leash on me and makes me go back in. And then at night, I'm in the gym and I'm doing another lift. So my days usually range, depending, sometimes can be 12, 14 hours long. If I want to stay up on the game, then that requires a lot of attention and studying outside of the boat and the gym. The U.S. sailing team of Malcolm Paige. This is a very important topic that I really enjoy talking about. I love the system that he has. I love the dream that he has. Malcolm's come in and he's really created a unity amongst the team. And Malcolm, I will say our staff and him work so hard to provide for us athletes. It's not an easy task, and I know that he goes through thick and thin to try to provide for all of us. I believe in Malcolm's dream. And he doesn't only just believe in this quad, he has a dream set out for the future. He believes that us Olympians, that we can achieve great things as quad, but he also believes that we have a great future ahead of us. Malcolm provides a lot of resources for us, the U.S. sailing team does. I work with a sports psych. I have a coach, Stevie Mitchell. We have nutritionists available. And, they help with containers, getting stuff all around.
And Malcolm tries as hard as he can to provide for us as much as possible. Our current budget is, for a Radial girl, would be $100,000. We have sales, travel, food. This is stuff outside that Malcolm can provide. This is per year. So, for example, one of my years that I was traveling a lot, I spent $20,000 just on airplane tickets. That doesn't include equipment, nothing else. And let me tell you, the seats that we choose are not the fancy seats. We're in the back, where I'll never forget, a woman was sitting next to me and she was moving my shoulder around so she could place her head nicely on my shoulder. What I truly believe that America is lacking is longevity amongst our athletes. I feel that athletes stop sailing before they reach their full potential. An athlete is not capable of reaching full potential within one quad. I'm currently going on, if you want to say, my 4th Olympic campaign, and I have yet to medal. And my dream is still to have that medal from the games. I think if a sailor were to continue throughout this and have a long time in the sport, you have to be able to pay for all of your expenses with sailing. But then as a 31-year-old adult, you have to be able to afford life, because Mom and Dad have closed their door on me quite a while ago. So for this to become a sport where there's longevity, it needs to become almost like a job. And athletes need to be able to make a living where they can pay for sailing and outside. I know that a lot of athletes that I've worked with, which is unfortunate, they stopped sailing because they couldn't financially afford another campaign, which, as you see, just in a Radial, if I'm spending almost $400,000 in 4 years, let's say a Finn or 470 or a NACRA, we're talking way more than that. Malcolm does all he can to help, and we are extremely thankful for all of that. In addition to the U.S. Sailing Team, the U.S. Olympic Committee, there is the St. Francis Sailing Foundation, which I am forever grateful for. They are so helpful for me in my sailing. They help not only just financial support, but their emotional support as well. I talk to the members. They give, good job. We have things on social media. So they're more than just finances for me. They're friends. Now, the last thing that I wanted to save is, this is probably the most penultimate thing in my career. This little girl here dressed up as me for Halloween. So I have become a Halloween costume. Thank you.
Thanks for joining the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon live from the beautiful St. Francis Yacht Club. Our guest today is the most decorated Radial sailor in history, Paige Railey. Paige, if your mother were here right now and she talked from her heart of hearts, what about you would make her most proud? What about you would make her most proud?
My mom has always admired the fight, and really I got it from her. She's a strong woman, and what I always looked up to my mom is that when someone told her she couldn't do something, or the same with me, I didn't try to fight back with words, because I don't feel like words are what make a change. What makes a change is actions. And so I followed in my mother's footsteps throughout the years, that if I wanted to have an impact, I was going to do it through my results, through actions, rather than just throwing words out.
So tell me about a moment when you've been afraid.
2017, I was afraid. I haven't talked much about that year, but sitting around waiting for test results is probably one of the worst feelings you could ever have, not knowing what the answer is going to be. And, I thought losing medals or something was awful, but no, sitting around in a body that you're losing control of, that's probably the most scary moment I've ever felt.
So you chose to get your education while still sailing all the time. So what did you like about school?
Well, I wish I did school like a regular person. I was exhausted.
The thing that's great about school is that I feel like a more well-rounded person. I'm not just a sailor. I'm a sailor, and I also have an education. I can go into the business world as work as well. So I like the idea of having more to my life than just one thing.
So you've competed in Ironman, and you're a woman. What's your favorite leg of the Ironman?
Biking, for sure. Yes, I know I had my bike accident, but biking is so similar to sailing. It's just painful. And actually, all laser sailors are really talented cyclists. We have a great cardio capacity, and we also have extremely strong legs.
No, I'm going to keep asking questions until I see a hand. If you want to have a question, John Bechtel will bring the mic to you. What's your favorite leg on the race course?
I like the upwinds because I think upwinds are like doing a athletic competition, you know, you're physically exerting yourself, but then at the same time you're playing a game of chess. And I really like trying to figure out when and put the puzzle pieces together.
So what kind of, you're talking about Steve Mitchell, your coach. Talk a little bit about the experience. There's two of you guys in the Radial part of the team. Talk a little bit about his influence on you.
I sail a one-person boat, but I always say it takes a team. And Steve Mitchell is 100% my teammate. Let me rephrase this. I fully trust Steve. And with that, I trust him to guide me in the right way. And what he does is he sets a direction out, and then I go out and I execute it. So without him, sometimes I can be all over the place. I have a lot of information in my head, and what he does is he helps me sort through it, and he also keeps me in an emotional sound place so I can go compete.
Question from the audience, Mo Roddy. Yes, Mo.
Check. I just wanted to tag on to something that Paige said, and that, you know, you can make a donation to the St. Francis Sailing Foundation, a tax-free donation anytime, and you can actually specify it for Paige, and she will get that money. So she wasn't going to tell you that, but I am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. We want everybody to understand that it's really a good thing to support our Olympic athletes. We all recognize that they have to grit it out on the water all the time. And one of the nagging things in all of them is, holy cow, how long can I keep doing this? How much more of my economic welfare can I sacrifice? So for each of us in this room, we can write a check to the foundation, and we can, if we choose, as good as Mo thoughtfully pointed out, specify I want some bucks to go to Paige. Great. How much of your sailing time do you worry about money?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, actually. The financial aspect of sailing, I am very tight with my money. So what's frustrating is that, like, if I go out with friends, I think, oh, no, can't do that because I want to buy a new sail. Oh, no, I'm consciously aware all the time of my finances, and I'm always thinking about where I can save money. So I think in the beginning of the year, I actually make a budget. I say, this is how much money I'm going to need. This is how much money I need for my real life. And to be honest, outside of the sailing, it's difficult. And I rely heavily on, obviously, the U.S. Sailing Team, the foundation, and the support of my family as well. So my brother, sister, and I, we are a team, and we all do help each other out as well.
How much does a sail for Radial cost?
A sail is about $600 to $700, and I go through 9 or 10 of them a year. That's just a sail.
Question from the audience, yes.
I a two-part question here. The first is, in 3 or 4 years' time, do you still see Opties as the entry-level way for young girls to get into the sport? And the second is, was your dad an Opti dad?
100% yes. I think the Opti is a great boat. Actually, Clarky Mills, he made the Pram, and he is from my hometown. So I think it's a great learning boat for kids. And, you know, what's nice about it is that it's not just sailing they're learning. They're actually learning great life aspects. They're out there independent of the family. They're learning to make decisions on their own, and they're learning how to socialize with other people. Opti parents. Let's see. My mom and dad do not know how to sail. My dad could not even drive a motorboat right now. So my parents, complete opposite. They were actually just happy that I finished the race. That's what they would tell people when I was younger.
A question from Mark Lambros. Mark.
Yes. After 15 years of sailing Radial, what have you learned in the last 2 years that you didn't know before? I'm kind of curious, at so many years of racing, what tricks have you learned on your boat?
Well, I've learned some new technique stuff on the starting line. There's a girl from Greece who's actually evolved our starting line techniques. And if you're not up to date on that, there's absolutely no way you could start on the line next to her or the group of people that do it. In addition, I believe I've become a much smarter sailor. So rather than when I was 18, I was very physical and I could just push the boat through the race. Now I have to actually tactically and strategically think through the race because females, because we're not as strong as males, we have to be smart. We have to be very smart with stuff. So instead of having the physical aspect or, brute force to get through a race, we have to strategically.
Important race.
Honestly, I've always said that sailing is very mental, and some of the mistakes I've made are because of stress. I'll use the World Championships last year as an example. I went into it thinking, oh my gosh, I could win the World Championships. And I focused on the wrong things rather than focusing on my moment and the current race. I was thinking about the outcome. And that was a crucial mistake because it lost me a medal.
We have a question from the ether. Julia.
Yeah, actually, it's from John Emmett, and it's a series of comments. First of all, he'll see you in Cadiz. He looks forward to that. He enjoyed competing against you. He remembers the pink helmet, and he thinks very much that you chose the color for that helmet. And obviously, he's enjoyed the conversation, but he'd like to know about your diet.
My diet. Okay, so because of 2017, I was trying to figure out any way I could to get out of the hole. And I completely changed my diet. I actually became a gluten-free vegan. Now, my dad says, vegan? What is that? So that means I actually don't eat any products that come from an animal. I'm all plant-based diet. And there's a lot of different theories behind it, but it has helped me a lot. So it makes going out to eat a little bit more difficult, but I will say I've seen a huge change in improvement in my body just going off of the plant-based sources.
Question from Kimball Livingston. Kimball.
Can't let this go by. You mentioned the competitor from Greece and bringing a new technique to the starts. Please share.
The technique is, you know how you backwind your sail to go backwards? Well, what she does is heels her boat to leeward, presses down very quickly, and when she goes to backwind, she pulls her dagger board up immediately. So rather than going backwards, she goes sideways. And it's in Miami World Cup, the event I was just in, you'll see all the girls start matching each other, and we will literally go 2 boat lengths at a time up, and everyone just keeps going and going and going up.
Another question. Jimmy DeWitt, he can sail.
This is something that she's against that you don't really know. Years ago, I was invited by the Canadian Sailing Association to come back and talk to them about why our kids here at the St. Francis were so damn good. And while I was there, I went to a meeting where they took their kids in and told them, for Christ's sake, spend the money we're getting from the government, or they won't give us as much next year. That's tough to compete against.
Yes. So Paige, what racing conditions do you like? What weather conditions do you like the most? What do you think's suited for you? What do you like?
I I like any range of breeze. What I prefer the most is the hard thinking type of stuff. Anyone can go fast through a corner, but what I like to do is almost mathematically divide out a course, try to figure out what's the best route up to a mark, and then executing that plan.
Talk a little bit about that when you say mathematically figure out a course. Give us an example.
You know, I'll use the coordinates of where the windward mark is, how much the wind's ranging, the start, what your coordinates are on the start, and then geometrically I try to break it down as to which exactly where I want to start on the line. I mean, it can range up from boat lengths, and then how far I want to sail after the start, like what kind of course I'm going to take after. And a lot of times that's just in my head, and I'm breaking it down mathematically. And if I don't have coach there to talk it out, sometimes I can get so deep into my thoughts that then I can overthink the process. And that's why it's great that I have Steve, because I regurgitate everything to him and then we come up with a great plan.
Paul Erickson, question.
Paige, first of all, I'm the recipient of some of those buckets from Zach. I love the seat feature, and I love the heavy rope feature and the handle feature in the bottom. They aren't just Home Depot buckets. But can we change the graphics from fishing to sailboats?
Yeah, for sure.
And then also, I was in Miami this weekend, and the starboats couldn't get off because they didn't have enough wind and pressure. And I watched your last race, the medal race, and I saw the comment where you were in solid silver, but you were willing to toss everything to go for the gold. And I wonder how that race went with the Chinese girl.
Yep, so I said the comment that I was willing to jeopardize my silver for gold. And the reason being that I did that is because I mean business this year. I'm not just going to go out to a race, go around the course, and just collect my medal. I was there to compete for the gold going into that finals race. And I want to show the world that I'm not just going to lay down and accept the current position that I'm at. Because as I said before, I've learned how to truly fight. So I went into that medal race. I executed the plan that I wanted to. Unfortunately, they didn't show it on the with the video. I put the Chinese girl. She didn't have a great start, and we went off the line. And when we did our tacks, a girl that weighs about 20 pounds less than you can go quite fast in 2 to 3 knots. So I was not as fast as her, and she outperformed me. And I got to sail the race in dead last. But it was a chance that I was willing to take. And it was also very humbling as well, you know, when you're going around knowing that everybody's watching you in last. But I said to myself, I said to coach, I go, I'm going to try. And if it ends up that I look like a fool, then whatever. I'd rather try than not try at all.
So if... So if your silver medalist, Olympic silver medalist brother, Zach, was bragging about you, what would Zach say?
My brother thinks that I am gifted with the wind. He believes that I have an ability that most people don't have to be able to read the wind. And my brother has always admired my work ethic. So I always say this, I am not afraid to work hard. If you can tell after my bike accident, my schooling career, I'm not afraid to buckle down and really put in hard hours of work to achieve a goal that I want. So Zach definitely, he likes my ability to read the wind and the work ethic.
Well, we like you as well, Paige. It's been great having you as a guest to the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon. Thanks very much for sharing your story with us. And thank you very much, everybody. The meeting's adjourned. Good going. Great story. Terrific. I'm sure you have many more fans.